Hey guys, Miss J here again with your week 13 review. I just wanted to start off by saying I am so glad that I got to see a lot of you guys in the live Zoom sessions Monday and Tuesday. I thought it was super cool, felt kind of normal having a school schedule again and having some live teaching and live learning, so I was just really excited about your participation and really appreciate that as well. So on Monday we got to kind of discuss what you guys learned through your death by fire papers about the 8th Amendment and the death penalty. And then Tuesdays when we kind of started our unit on Congress. As well as learning about Congress in class on Tuesday, you also did some iCivics games for review. I hope you had fun with those. I know I did. I played them all. Thought they were kind of cool, neat, a really great review. And you also had some legislative branch terms that you got from the textbook. So I'm going to be reviewing a lot of the ideas that we learned in the presentation on Congress on Monday, or Tuesday, sorry, and what you would have learned in your legislative terms as well. So starting off the legislative branch, that is what Congress is. Congress is what we call a bicameral system. So it's a two-house system. It's the House of Representatives and the Senate. And it's bicameral because it is broken up to have equal representations for all states in one, which is the Senate, and representation based on population, which is in the House of Representatives. So it's a way that it could both appease the large and the small states, because the large states obviously wanted a house based on population because they would have more power and more control in them. But then the small states were afraid that they would not have enough of a voice. So that's where the Senate comes in. Since each state, regardless of size, has 2 senators, it gives more equal representation for each state. So starting off, where does Congress get its powers? So it gets its powers from the express powers, and those are powers given to Congress explicitly in the Constitution. It also has power from implied powers. So these are powers that Congress has that are not explicitly stated in the Constitution, but it still is able to retain. And then lastly, it also gets powers from the Elastic Clause. So the Elastic Clause comes from Clause 18 in the Constitution. And this states that Congress can have more power as new needs arise. So obviously, back in the 1700s, they could not picture everything that Congress was going to need to do. There's going to be advancements in technology and society, and there is going to be, expansion in the United States. So they couldn't envision all that Congress was going to need to be able to do. So that's where the Elastic Clause comes in. Congress's powers grow as new needs arise. Now let's look at the differences between the House and the Senate. So in the House of Representatives, this is the House with the 2-year term, and it's based on population size. So it has 435 members. So this causes it to be really centralized. It's got a really strong, leadership. It's led by the Speaker of the House. It's just really centralized around its ideas of committees and time debates and things like that. The Senate is a lot more open for discussion, where the House is a lot larger, so it's not open for as much discussion. And that's where the idea of committees come in. One committee you looked at in your terms was standing committees. So these are permanent committees that are always there. But committees are people who are centralized around a very specific idea. So like there's committees on education, on agriculture, on energy, and these are just representatives who are really focused on those, and they review any bills that come in that have to do with their committee. The House of Representatives also initiates impeachment. So if you remember, impeachment is when a person in the federal government is charged with unlawful actions or misconduct. So the House of Representatives actually initiates the impeachment. They have to vote to decide whether or not to impeach a person. So when we're thinking about presidents, they're kind of the big one. Only 3 presidents have been impeached. Being impeached does not mean you're removed from office. It just means that the House voted that you are being charged with misconduct. It then goes over to the Senate, which then that they try the impeached officials. And if you are actually tried and found guilty, then you would be removed from office. So far, no one has actually been removed, no president has been removed from office through the impeachment trials. And so then moving on to the Senate is a 6-year term that has 100 members. That is the 2 from each state. A big job of the Senate is to offer advice and consent to the president. So the president will appoint officials, so they appoint their cabinet members, but those people do not actually get their position until the Senate votes yes on them. Senate also has filibusters, which we're going to get into in the next slide, and the Senate is also controlled by the majority leader. It is important to note because the majority leader in the Senate and the Speaker of the House in the House of Representatives are both very powerful people in our government. The majority leader in the Senate right now is Mitch McConnell, and in the House of Representatives, it is Nancy Pelosi. So both of those people have a lot of power in our federal government. So like I said, we're going to get into filibusters. So filibusters are kind of cool. They are a way for a senator to delay the passing of a bill or a Senate action. And the reason I say they're kind of cool is because I think they're pretty impressive as a way that a senator could do this. So in order to delay these actions or these bills, a senator can stand on the Senate floor. And as long as they continuously stand on the Senate floor, they get to delay the passing of a bill. So that is exactly how it sounds. They have to stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk. And as long as they continue talking, do not leave the floor, then they can continue to do it. The only way they are stopped is by if the senator decides to end the filibuster themselves or by a cloture vote. And a cloture vote is 3/5 of the senator's vote to end the vote. So it causes for there to be more support in the ending of the filibuster. So in order to pass a bill, you just need a majority. So you only have to get 51 members of Senate on your side to pass a bill. However, if somebody starts filibustering, then you need 60 people to end that filibuster, which means you'd have to get 9 more senators on your side in order to end this filibuster. So that's how it's kind of used and used successfully. But like I said, filibusters are kind of cool. I have a pretty hard time, standing up and talking for 30, 40, 50 minutes. Can you imagine? The longest one was 24 hours back in 1957. So that's a really long time for a senator just to be standing up there and talking. They must feel pretty passionately about what they're trying to stop. So then let's go back to the House of Representatives. So how are representatives elected? Like I said, representatives are based on population. And so every 10 years, a thing called a census is taken, and this determines how many people live in each state. The states are broken down into districts of roughly equal size, and these districts are what's deciding how many representatives, or the districts then have a representative that goes to the House of Representatives. And the constituents, or the people that live in each district, get to elect the representative for their district. So this then brings about a thing called gerrymandering. So gerrymandering is used to draw distinctive districts in odd shapes to benefit one of the political parties. So it can be used to kind of manipulate district lines in order to get, if the Democrats are drawing the lines, more Democrats in a district, to make sure that the representative that district will be sending is a Democrat, or Republicans can use it for the exact same way. And it's just a way to kind of manipulate who is going to gain representation in the House of Representatives. So then let's go into powers that Congress does not have. We often talk about things they can do, but these are things that Congress cannot do. So writ of habeas corpus. So this is when a prisoner gets to know why they are being held prisoner, what the charges are against them. A thing that Congress cannot do is they cannot suspend this. A prisoner always has a right to know what the charges are against them. They always get to know why they are going to jail. The next thing Congress cannot do is called a bill of attainder. So Congress cannot pass laws that punish a person without a jury trial. That's what this means. A person always has the right to a jury. That is something that Congress cannot take away. And then lastly is ex post facto law. Congress cannot pass laws that make inaction a crime after they are committed. So this would basically be like your parents not having a rule against something. They've never stated that this action is not against the rules in their house. You have no idea that you're not allowed to do it, so you do it. And then your parent comes back and says, oh, actually, I've decided you're not allowed to do that, and although you didn't know that, I'm still going to ground you for a month. You'd be like, well, I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to do that. That wasn't a law, or that wasn't a rule in our household. So that's what this is saying. So it's saying that Congress cannot pass a law after you committed a crime that has to do with that crime. That would not be really fair to you guys. So then lastly, reading through the terms that you guys did, it kind of just touched on how a bill becomes a law. It's a very complicated process, but I just wanted to be able to kind of briefly go over it so you understood some of the terms that you had to learn from this chapter. Like I said, it is a lot more in depth than I'm going to go over, but this is just a review. So, first off, a bill is presented to a branch of Congress. It is either presented to the House or it's presented to the Senate. And it is usually presented by some sort of special interest group. So special interest groups are groups with a common thing, and they come together to get a bill passed. So they present this bill. And then it is voted on in one of the houses, and then it moves to the other branch of Congress. It's called a joint resolution after it is passed in both houses of Congress. So then after it is passed in both branches of Congress, it is then moved on to the president to sign off on. The president can either sign yes, it can veto it, which is saying, no, I do not agree with this, or it can do what is called a pocket veto. And I know this is one of the terms that you guys had to cover. So this is when a president ignores a bill, and typically after 10 days of a president ignoring a bill, then the bill gets passed. However, a pocket veto happens when a president ignores a bill and then Congress adjourns its meeting before the 10-day period. If Congress adjourns before the 10-day period is over, then the bill is automatically vetoed. It cannot be brought back up when Congress comes back together. So that would be called a pocket veto. Like I said, just a really brief overview of a bill becomes a law. We'll get more into that, but I just wanted to be able to put into terms some of the vocabulary that you learned from this lesson. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out and please fill out a detailed version or a detailed copy of the things you learned and the things you don't understand still from this unit, so I can offer you a little bit of feedback and some more help if you need it. But make sure those charts are detailed, and again, please reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.